anything yet, for crying out loud. Is that all you have to say?
It's me.
Ladies and gentlemen, sing.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Please be seated. Good evening. Mike Rowe, isn't that cool? Excited to have you. I want you to look behind me if you would. We have...
Well, that's me up there. Holy
Yeah,
cow.
that's you right there.
That's the back of my head.
Yeah.
Hey, guys.
We have about 50 students here that really are a reflection of many students out in the audience tonight. 25 workstations represented.
Yeah.
You visited a few of those today.
I did.
Power plant, dairy, custodial, heating and air, construction.
Yeah.
We do dirty work too.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, welcome to Hard Work U. We're excited that you're here.
I'm sorry it took so long. I heard about this place probably 20 years ago when I started my own foundation. I've been getting letters every month from people saying, "You ever gonna go to Missouri? You ever gonna go to Hard Work U?" I just got sick of hearing from them. I said, yeah. All right, I'm coming. I'm here. And thanks for having me.
No, we're excited that you're here. It's a special night. This is my debut as a talk show host.
Good luck.
Well, sounds like I'll need it. So tell us a little bit about your day today at Hard Work U.
Oh, well, my day started in Scottsdale. I woke up early. I got to the airport in time for once, made the flight, got here. Trooper named Scott picked me up, drove me here. Wasn't sure where I was going, but we got here and he told me to get out, so I did. Then I met a woman named Sue Head, who took me to all the nicest places. Oh, the first place was the dairy, and I met some students there, and there was pooping and there was milking, and I fed a calf some milk, and that was great. We got a chance to talk to them, and then it was off to. I made a fruit cake with a couple of molecular biologists. I'm still not sure how this works or where the link is, but, 1 minute you're a guy milking a cow who had just awakened in Scottsdale, and then you're putting fruit into a cake, getting bossed around by molecular biologists. And that was great. And I learned about that, and then I went over to the printing press. Right? So along the way, I'm talking to the kids, and I'm learning about how all this works, and it really is impressive. And what's most memorable, I think, so far about my day is working on the printing press and seeing what they were working on, which is essentially the brochures you all have in your laps right now with a picture of me wearing the same daggone shirt right on the front of it, which is deeply humiliating. But I've only got 1 or 2 shirts, and this is one of them, so I got that going for me. So it was a big day. Then we went to dinner, and I sat right in between Brad and Laura, and we had some short ribs, which were prepared by students, and that was delicious, and the coffee was great. And then I left my hat behind, and I went back to get it. It was gone, so I went to the gift shop, and I stole this one, because I didn't think anybody would care. I mean, I'm good for it if you want the money, but then somebody found the hat that I left behind on my chair at dinner and left it here, and so now I'm wrestling with this choice. Do I go with the olive or the khaki? And I went with the olive, and that's pretty much been my day.
Well, the bill's in the mail. So let's talk about the format for tonight. So nobody wants to hear too much from me, but I know that we have some students who have a few questions for you. So we have about 5 student questions, and in the midst of that, I will ask some questions. Hopefully we'll have some good dialogue, and we already had some fun tonight. I think it's going to be good. Yeah? Okay. So if you would,
As a show host,
okay, what am I doing wrong?
as a guy who's impersonating a show host, the first thing you want to do in a situation like this, you want to manage expectations.
Okay.
Right? You don't want to come out too hot. You don't want to say what an amazing night it's going to be. You want to go with something like, "Hey, look, we just met. He seems like a nice guy. We're going to have a conversation. We'll see where it goes. No guarantees. Could be a disaster, but let's just see what happens." Okay? That's what I did on Dirty Jobs for 20 years, right? And in the end, right? So it's just a little bit easier. So try it again without so much emphasis on the, wow, this is going to be amazing.
Okay. Today, I got a chance to meet Mike Rowe. He's less than impressive. felt like, wasn't, is that better?
It's certainly a step in a direction.
Okay. Can I move on now?
Please, I beg you.
Thanks. So, if you would, this is gonna be a fun night. Like I said, if you would draw your attention to the screen, we will have a question from our first student.
Sure.
Hello, my name is Abigail Muller, and I'm a student manager in the Cater Center kitchen. Mr. Rowe, my question for you is, who has been the most influential person in your life?
Nick. You're Abigail. You're dressed differently. It's very confusing. You work in the kitchen? Again, kudos on dinner. Terrific. Thank you. Well, so many. But I guess the short answer is my pop. Carl Noble is his name. You guys wouldn't know him by his name, but I bet a lot of you would recognize him if I described him. He was, for starters, my grandfather and my next door neighbor. Grew up on a little farm in Baltimore. He lived right next door with his wife, Thelma. Carl Noble only went to the 7th grade. But by the time he was 30, he was an electrical contractor, worked for the state. He was also a plumber, steam fitter, pipe fitter, welder. Guy built a house I was born in without a blueprint, right? So you know the guy. He's got the chip somewhere back there. He could take your watch apart, put it back together blindfolded, you know? And he grew up next to me, and I knew from a very early age that I was going to follow in his footsteps. And then as I got a little older, I realized that the handy gene is what you call recessive. You know, just because your pop or your dad or your uncle or your mom can do a thing doesn't necessarily mean you will. So what I inherited from my grandfather was a burning desire to work in the trades. What I didn't get was his natural skill. But I was the beneficiary of his boundless patience. My dad, who was a public school teacher, worked as my grandfather's apprentice. And growing up on a little farm, I had a front row seat to a master and an apprentice who would get up every day and go out into the world to fix something. I didn't quite know what they were doing out there, but they woke up clean and they came home dirty. And at the end of the day, a well had been dug, or pipe had been laid, or there was electricity where there had been none before. And so I think looking back, it was that magic, you know, that comes with being able to fix a thing or correct a problem. That's what really impacted me. And of course, it was my pop. I was 17. I'd been working as an apprentice and coming to the sad realization that I wasn't, in fact, going to follow in his footsteps at all. And I completely messed up a foundation. We were working on a construction site, and I got the mix wrong. And you know, if you're working with concrete, you get the mix wrong. Well, everybody hates you, right? Because once you pour the concrete, you work for it, right? And so it was just a mess, and he pulled me aside, my pop did, and he said, look, you can be a tradesman if you really want to be. Just get a different toolbox, because you're making everybody crazy. And so I did. I let go of the idea that I would be a version of him. I went to a community college. I studied everything that struck me as either interesting or scary, right? From philosophy to English to music, to acting, to writing, to the liberal arts. It was a community college. It was super inexpensive, Essex Community College. Then I got a job, and then I went to a university later, and eventually I found my way. But my answer really has to be my grandfather, because he was so right about one thing. Anybody can be a tradesman. Anybody can think like a person. The trades and jobbing, that's a state of mind. It's not really a reflection of a specific set of skills. A good accountant can think and act like a tradesperson, right? Good lawyer, same thing, if there is such a thing. And of course there is. mine is here with me this evening, so apologies to Mary wherever she's sitting. So yeah, his impact on me at that age, I didn't fully understand what it was until Dirty Jobs eventually became a thing. And then I got to look back on it and go, oh, how about that? So yeah, that's my answer, Carl Noble. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sure.
So you went to community college,
I did.
and then a 4-year institution, graduated.
I did.
Did you always have this dream of being in television?
No. Like I said, my early dream was very, very specific. In school, I started to realize there might be a way to make a living doing something in front of people, but I wasn't particularly enamored of it or really conscious of it until high school, when another one of those people came into my life. He was a music teacher. His name was Fred King, and I stuttered as a kid. Not terribly, not full on like Porky Pig, right? I mean, not debilitating, but I stammered all of the time, and I was shy, and I had this music teacher who just wasn't buying it. And the first thing he did was, I could carry a tune, so he got me into this chorus, and then he got me in this barbershop quartet, and I realized, you can't stutter when you sing, which was like a big revelation. And then he made me audition for a play, and I was like, look, Mr. King, I can't. There's no way I'm going to get through a monologue without stammering all over. They said, you'll be fine. Anyhow, I auditioned for this play, and I got 20 seconds to the monologue, and I'm just hemming and hawing and just making a mess of it. And he said to me, Mike, actually he called me Mike, he said, Mikey, I love what you're doing with the character, but this character doesn't stutter. You should do that on your own time, and just try it again without all the blah, blah, blah. And it was such a glib thing to say, but I really loved this guy, and I trusted him. He was not just a teacher, he was a friend. So I didn't give it a second thought. I just jumped right back in at the top of the monologue and got 20 seconds into it without the stammer. And he looked at me and was like, So I thought, maybe we act like a guy who doesn't stutter for a while, see where that goes. And that's really what started it. My pop saying, get a different toolbox. My music teacher saying, stutter on your own time. And then way leads on to way, like the poet says. Who knows that poem? The Road Not Taken, right? Robert Frost. You guys know that poem? You studied that? Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. Sorry I couldn't travel both, be one traveler. Long I stood, looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. And took the other as just as fair, but having perhaps a better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. But as for that, the passing there had worn him really about the same. So both that morning equally lay, 2 fields no step, but trodden back. I kept the first for another day, but knowing how way leads on the way, I doubted if I would ever go back. And then finally the stanza kills me. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that's made all the difference. I didn't write that. That was Robert Frost, by the way. Not me.
So it wasn't easy for you to jump into this career. Obviously, I think in your book, you mentioned something about selling dolls at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning.
You gotta make it weird, man.
I don't know, it's just kind of, it is kind of weird. Who watches QVC at 3 a.m. in the morning and then
Well, I'll give you a list of people, for sure. They're out there. Yeah, look, that's what I mean by way leads on the way. One day you're in a barbershop quartet, and then your teacher says you should audition for the opera. And you think, well, that's weird. I don't even like the opera, but you do, and you get in, and you sing in it for 8 years. And then one day, during a long intermission, you walk across the street dressed as a Viking to watch the football game in the local bar. And while you're sitting there, the bartender puts the TV on and there's a big guy in a shiny suit selling pots and pans. And you say, why don't you put the game back on? And he says, because I'm auditioning for that guy's job tomorrow. And then you make a friendly wager with the bartender that you could do this job, this thing on TV, where you're selling pots and pans or whatever else they hand you. And then you and your bartender buddy, you go downtown to the Inner Harbor in Baltimore the next morning. And you sit there to audition for a job you don't even really know exists. You don't even understand. It's 1989. Why are people selling pots and pans on the TV in a 24-hour commercial? And a man sets up a camera and rolls a pencil across the table. And that's your audition. He says, pick up that pencil and talk about it until I tell you to stop talking. Make me want the pencil, he said. And so I don't really know much about pencils, and I don't even want the job. I just want to win the bet with my bartender buddy. But now I'm a guy who can carry a tune, and I don't stutter anymore, so I pick up that pencil. And I start talking about it. I start talking about the features and the benefits of the pencil. Not knowing that anybody who talks about a pencil for 8 minutes in this audition gets a contract. And so I'm talking about the fact that it's yellow. Why is that important, Nick? Because if you're a man in need of a pencil, you don't have time to be rooting around in your cluttered desk drawer for a beige-colored writing implement. You need something yellow that pops out that you can see. The man nods his head. He says, good point. I pick up the pencil and I say, look, it's a number 2 pencil, not a number 1, not a number 3. That number 3 leaves a fine, hard, wispy line. Nobody wants that. Number 1, that thing looks like a skid mark. What a mess that is. Which one is a number 2? And this is a number 2 pencil. You've seen pencils that are round. This one is not really round if you look carefully at it. It's like an octagon. There's a little angle, right? That feels good in the web of your hand. It's perfectly designed for the average hand. This is a pencil that anybody can enjoy, I said, with an eraser on it, but not just any eraser. An eraser that was just long enough, according to science and studies, to last the life of the pencil as you sharpen it. That eraser, it never fails you. It's always there. And that's important, friends, because there's some things that need to be done with a pencil and not a pen. Say a crossword puzzle, for instance, right? I mean, you think Einstein figured out the theory of relativity with a pen? No, he needed the facility and the flexibility that comes with a pencil that would let him correct his mistakes. On and on I'm going. I'm like 3 minutes in. But I started talking about the first love note I wrote, which was in a pencil, you know? I just talked until he begged me to shut up, and then he hired me. And then 2 nights later, I am sitting on the air, live, at QVC. It's midnight, and there are like 1 million people watching, and I have no idea what's happening, except people dressed in these blue Oxford shirts keep bringing me these products I'd never seen before, and I had to talk about all of them for 8 minutes. The Health Team Infrared Pain Reliever, the Amcor Negative Ion Generator, Eelskin Wallets for him, plus-sized fashions for her. It was just an endless list of things. And then they brought me a doll, and I thought it was a joke. I couldn't understand. Why would they bring me a doll, you know? Well, I didn't know. Dolls are the 3rd most collectible thing in the world, behind stamps and coins. And so I started to talk about this doll, and next thing I knew, it sold out. And then they brought me another doll, and it was a nun doll. It was a 2-foot porcelain nun, and she didn't look happy. Her name was Sister Mary Margaret, and she was a musical nun. And I didn't know what any of this meant, but I talked about the nun for 8 minutes. And I made horrible puns, Nick. I had her over my head at one point, singing the theme to a flying nun, which I thought was funny. I took one of the rulers and I put it in her hand. I gave myself a couple of whacks. I thought that was funny. And then I looked at my blue card where there's usually some information provided, not much. You know, this particular nun was $220 available for 3 easy payments, whatever it was. And then in the little print I say, if you wind her up, she sings Climb Every Mountain. Which is impossible. This is the funniest thing ever. So I'm sitting here on camera like this, and I'm talking to the audience. The time is just stretching into eternity, and I'm looking for the winder where you would expect to find it, right between her shoulder blades. It's not there. And as I search for the winder, it looks like I'm giving the nun a massage, right? And so the technical director, hey, you asked.
I'm still learning, I apologize.
So the technical So I'm sitting like this. I got a nun standing up between my legs, right? And I'm looking at the camera, and the nun's face is here, and she's not happy. You can tell she's like got the spectacles, and she's an uptight nun, and I can't find this winder. I have to conduct a more thorough search, and I can't do this on camera. So the technical director cuts to another camera, and so the viewer at home sees a nun in what's called a light box over on the far right. Okay, this is one of those super close-ups you see on QVC. Like if you turn on QVC right now, there'll be a close-up. It could be this hat, could be a bracelet, whatever it is they're selling. Well, it's a super close-up shot of this nun as I'm talking. But as I'm talking, I'm frantically searching for the winder because I want her to sing Climb Every Mountain so I can lead the audience in a sing-along because I can carry a tune and I don't stutter anymore. It's a big night for me because Waylene's on the way, but I gotta find the winder, otherwise nothing makes any sense, right? So the winder is not where any sane person would put it. I mean, I search everywhere for it. I'm squeezing her hand, hoping she's gonna burst into a tune. There's a music box inside of her. I know it, but I can't find the winder. I take off her wimple, right? I think it might be sticking out of the top of her head. It's not, there's nothing. But there it is, in the small of her back, just this little thing poking out. I can't, who would put a winder there? When I say the small of her back, I mean the lowest possible part of the small of her back. There appears to be a winder in the nun's body. And I can't believe this, and I can't wind it up. I have to put my hand into the habit to get a hold of the winder. Now, I'm off camera, so it's no big deal, but it just looks wrong. I mean, I got a nun in my left hand, and I'm just like, folks, any second now, we're gonna wind up Mary Margaret. We're all gonna sing along and Climb Every Mountain. But I can't get any torque on the winder. I can't get a grip on it. It's this small, slippery thing. So, you asked.
I really shouldn't have asked this question.
So here's what happens. It's a true story. I'm off camera. I turn the nun upside down. And to steady her, I kind of got to squeeze her head between my legs, right? And I push her habit down, and there's the winder, right where I've said it. It's ridiculous. I got tears streaming down my face. Everybody in the studio was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to wind her up. It's the last thing I do. So I lean over, and I start turning this winder. It makes a heck of a sound. It sounds like a zipper. Like the people at home have no idea what they're hearing except me talking. And any second, I know the air is going to fill with this song, Climb Every Mountain. Well, the technical director is not looking at his line monitor. There's a preview monitor and there's a line monitor. And you never switch shots until you know what the shot you're switching to is. But the technical director had been on this tight shot of the nun in the light box for an eternity, and he needed to come back to me, but he didn't really check to see what manner of depravity was unfolding.
I think it's time for a student question, shall we?
He cuts back to me. I look down at the line monitor. There's an upside down nun. Right here. I'm leaning over doing something that I'm not supposed to be doing. Not ever, certainly not on live TV. I leap back in horror and the nun falls face first and starts singing Climb Every Mountain. And that's why I was fired the first time.
Well, all right.
Is that what the fine line is here? That's as far as
I hear
I
you.
go, right?
We're good. We're going to go on to the next question from one of our students. Let's draw our attention to the screen up there, please.
My name is David Russell, and I work at the landscaping department here at C of O. And Micro, my question for you is, how does a person begin to view work as a holistic part of their life that brings about purpose and fulfillment, rather than just a paycheck?
Did you say holistic?
Yes,
What's that mean?
a part of the whole.
I see. And your name is Ian?
David,
I took a shot. This is going great.
Long day.
So, without too much navel gazing and overthinking it, yeah, I think that the big lesson from Dirty Jobs was that work isn't merely a thing you do for money. It's a state of mind. And you know, people always ask me, what was it about those 350 dirty jobbers that you worked with that we can learn from? Like, what's the big lesson? And I think the answer has a lot to do with your question. It's not even thinking about work as an adverse thing. It's not even really thinking of it as a challenging thing. It's the happiest people I know and the best workers I know don't delineate their life into, okay, well, this is my job and this is where I work and this is my fun and this is where I play, right? These are my hobbies. It's really a much more even approach to everything. And I think part of it's rooted in curiosity. If you wake up curious every day, you're going to be interesting. If you're interested in a thing, you're going to be interesting to other people. And I think that's true in landscaping. I think it's true in the culinary arts. I think it's true in all the vocational arts. I think it's true in people who are impersonating a host, right? If you're interested, and if you're in on the joke, and if you're not afraid to laugh at yourself, and certainly if you're not afraid to fail, you know, there's not much in the way of advice that's new, but part of what I love that goes on here, and I can sense it just in talking to the students that I've met, you know, out in the rest of the world, people will tell you it's important on the job to do the difficult thing, to be uncomfortable when the situation calls for it. But the next level, like the real dirty jobs level, that place where the most successful people I know live, those people don't simply like hold their breath and endure the difficulty. They figured out a way to love it. They figured out a way to look forward to the very things that we're told should be challenging. It's like so many people who are unhappy think about work as the problem. They blame work. I think our country, in a really broad way, not to get too tangential on you, Dave or Ian or whoever you are, is we believe work is the proximate cause of our unhappiness, right? And you see it in every advertisement, you see it in most sitcoms, you see it in lots of movies. When you find somebody who's unhappy 9 times out of 10, it's because they're being asked to do too much, or they're working too hard, or somehow they're not fulfilled, or their passions aren't being realized, or their boss is a so-and-so. And everything kind of comes back into these weird portrayals of work, where we're left with these one-dimensional stereotypes. I say plumber, 90% of you see a 300-pound dude with a giant butt crack. Sorry, but that's what we see, because that's what we've been shown. That's what plumbers look like. Nonsense, right? A lot of what I try and do with my foundation is good-naturedly challenge the stigmas and the stereotypes and the myths and the misperceptions that keep people from pursuing a lot of really great careers that are out there. But it starts with your question. How can work, other than in the very literal sense, be a four-letter word? How can it be the enemy? It's the proximate cause of so much of our joy, so much of our identity. I did my time in the opera. That was weird. I did my time with porcelain dolls in the middle of the night. That was weirder, right? I had probably 200 jobs before Dirty Jobs came along. And it really took that long for me to find the better answer to your question, which is humility. I did okay in my chosen field, but I didn't get a hit show until I let the people that I was working alongside of become the expert that I had always pretended to be as a host. It wasn't until I let go of all of that and became an apprentice, a cipher, an avatar, that work started to make sense to me in a very, very different way. So I think we all have to find our own path, but the root of the answer to your question is work is not, if you want to look at it as something more than merely transactional, then you have to love it. You have to be passionate about your job, even if your job is your passion. That's not bad. You can use that if you want. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Great question.
Well, I think it would be great if we could go ahead and show the next video from one of our students, the next question from one of our students. So if you would, draw your attention to the screen behind.
I'm getting a kink in my neck with all this turning around.
I'm sorry. Would you like me to move your chair?
No, it's okay. This is going to be the student that was going to ask the question, right? It is. Look at that. It's all coming together. All right, now I'm ready. I'm turning around. Let's hear the question.
Great.
All right.
Hi, my name is Abigail Puar, and I work at Fruitcake and Jelly Kitchen. And my question for you, Mr. Rowe, is how do we as future employees handle working in a work environment where we may not agree or get along with our coworkers and leadership?
Were you listening to my last answer? Abigail, was it? I love that name. It's a great name. John Adams, our second president, was married to a woman named Abigail. And if you really want to understand that man's presidency, you should read the love letters between he and his wife. They're some of the most beautiful things you'll ever read. Great. Apropos of nothing. Sometimes, I learned this on QVC, when you don't have a really good answer, you just go way over here with a fact. And it gives you a chance to make sounds while you formulate a response. So you learn to love the difficulty that you described. Speaking of presidents, there was another one, our 16th. This is good. Watch how I land the plane.
I'm learning.
You're gonna love this, right? Abraham Lincoln looked over our country at maybe the most tumultuous time in the history of the Republic, with the possible exception of its formation 100 years or so before that. But when he was tasked with holding the whole thing together, and by the way, I know we're divided. I know everybody in this room knows that the media is focused on all the things that divide us, all the things, and we're just being pulled, it seems, into our own little tribes and our own little identities and our own little groups. And I hate to see that happen on the job, because diversity of thought, in my view, is the diversity that matters most. And Abraham Lincoln, he didn't surround himself with people who agreed with him. He surrounded himself, I'm talking about his cabinet, not just his friends. He surrounded himself with what Doris Kearns Goodwin, in her terrific book about the man, called a team of rivals. A team of rivals. He affirmatively picked people, in many cases, who were sympathetic to the Southern cause. People with whom he affirmatively disagreed. But he knew, he knew he had to have that around him if he wanted to try and lead anywhere else. Yeah, my personal politics don't matter, neither do my personal views, but I live in San Francisco. I live in the Republic of Marin, okay? And I have many friends there. And when I think about my friends in my own zip code and make a list of the ones who I agree with, it's a short list, But it's okay. There's an episode on my podcast, if you'll pardon the shameless plug, last week, where I talked to a reporter, a wonderful interviewer called Celeste Headley, who works for NPR. I don't think she and I see eye to eye on a lot of things that are important to me, but she did an amazing TED Talk that I recommend you all watch called How to Have a Better Conversation in 10 Steps. The whole TED Talk is 12 minutes long. And it's the best answer I can think of to your question. You can quit your job anytime. You can quit your job tomorrow, you can quit it next week. Or you can go in and you can find a way to fix it through some combination of work ethic, personal responsibility, delayed gratification, that's a biggie, a positive attitude, some humility, and most of all for me, humor. Because there's always a chance to get a laugh, even with people who don't share your views, even with people who are horrified by the fact that an upside-down nun just tumbled from between your thighs and landed face first. There's always a way to have a laugh and still be understood. So, look, if all that fails, quit, get another job. There's plenty of people hiring right now, right? There are 11.5 million open jobs as we speak. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but this is kind of important. Quick sidebar, 11.5 million jobs in our country right now. 7.2 million men, for the first time in the history of the United States, in peacetime, able-bodied men between the ages of 25 and 54 are sitting out of the workforce. We've never seen anything like this. Meanwhile, we have $1.7 trillion in student loans currently on the books. $1.7 trillion in student loans on the books, most of which is held by men and women who went after a very specific form of education, a four-year degree. Now, there's nothing wrong with a four-year degree. You offer them here. I have one. It served me well. But at the moment, our country is lending vast sums of money that we don't have to millions of kids who are never going to be able to pay it back, to train them for a long list of jobs that don't exist anymore. Meanwhile, we got 11.5 million open positions, many of which you guys celebrate here with your workstations, day in and day out. So, I forgot your question. But I'll tell you, at its root, you're basically saying, how do we get along? And it starts with getting along with yourself, with being in charge of your own work ethic, showing up early, staying late, and making friends. That's the end of that.
So I never realized you were a professional opera singer.
No. I got paid to sing opera. That didn't make me a professional.
So you must be able to sing
Once upon a
some
time.
opera for us tonight, right?
Seriously?
They want to see it.
Well, all right, apologies in advance, but this is what my granddad was talking about. Get a different toolbox. Put things in the box, right? You don't know. The audition for QVC was an eye-opener, but before that, to get into the opera, I crashed they did these monthly cattle calls. Anybody can audition for the opera. All you had to do was learn an aria and show up on a Thursday, and they'd put you through the paces. And I wanted to join the opera, not because I not because I cared about the opera, but because I wanted to get my union card so I could get in the Screen Actors Guild and become a famous TV celebrity, right? But I couldn't get my union card because I didn't have an agent, and I couldn't get an agent because I wasn't in the union. But if I got my card for the opera, then I could buy my other card for the Screen Actors Guild. So this is why I auditioned for the opera. I learned the shortest aria I could find, which is by, it's called the Coat Aria. It's by Giacomo Puccini. And it's only 2.5 minutes long. So I went to Rosedale Library and I checked out the album and I listened to a guy named Samuel Ramey, a famous bass baritone, sing it in Italian. I had no idea what the words meant, but I memorized the sounds. Walking around Baltimore with these things, you wouldn't remember them, but they're called Walkman. So I'd walk around with a Sony Walkman, listening to Samuel Ramey sing a song I didn't understand. And when I got most of it memorized, I went to the Lyric Opera House and I stood on the stage in front of these people who said, "What will you be singing for us today, Mr. Rowe?" And I said, it's this short thing from Puccini's La Bohème. And they said, "Go for it." And I said, "Vecchia Zimara senti il resto pianto scendere sacrio montio devi le me grazia ricevi." And then I went, "My non corvasti logoro." And that's as far as I got before Bill Iannuzzi said, the pianist, "You have no idea what you're singing about, do you?" I said, "No, not really." And he said, "How old are you?" And I said, "I'm 22. And he said, "Why do you want to be in the opera?" And I said, "Honestly, I'm just trying to get my union card." And he said, "Your candor is refreshing and somewhat annoying." And I said, "You're welcome." And as it turns out, they needed young men with low voices. And I checked the box, so he gave me a shot. And the first opera, Nick, I swear, it was called La Traviata. And then I did Rigoletto. And then I stayed for 8 years, right? The music was so much better than I thought it would be. And the women.
Next question. Okay, let's go. Cue the video.
Don't worry,
Hello,
there's no
Mike.
dolls. Sorry.
My name is Miles Glodden, and I work in the electric shop here on campus. My question for you is, why have we as a society lost appreciation for blue-collar work, and what can we do to change this trajectory?
Miles, was it? With a Y or an I?
Why?
Good for you. So, that is such a, right to the guts of the question. And I think the answer is, you're really asking about appreciation. Why don't we appreciate that part of our workforce that makes civilized life possible for the rest of us? What is it about the fault in our stars that keeps us from paying a daily tribute? Why aren't we properly gobsmacked by the wonder of lights that come on when we flick the switch and poo that goes away when we flush the toilet? Why doesn't that blow us away? And I don't know, but my theory and the whole operating premise of Dirty Jobs was sort of based on the idea that we resent, ultimately, the very thing we rely upon. We resent the thing we rely upon. And it doesn't happen overnight. We start appreciative. It's like, this is great. This is a new invention. I mean, think about air travel. I mean, unbelievable. It took our great-great-greats 3 months in a wagon to get across the country. Now it takes us 4.5 hours. But if the internet doesn't work, outrageous. What's going on up here? What's the problem? We have no patience anymore. right? And so when the electric went off in my neighborhood for 4.5 days during the lockdowns, an amazing thing happened. People went through the 5 stages of grief very quickly, except they never got to acceptance. It was just straight through denial and bargaining and anger, and then they just kind of stayed in anger. Some went to depression, but nobody got to acceptance. We just couldn't. People were shaking their fists at the linemen who were up on the poles trying to get the power back on. See, the thing is, when you become reliant, truly reliant on the civilized life that we have and the people who make those things possible, you have to, if you're being honest with yourself, realize, admit, and acknowledge your own shortcomings. So it's annoying to be reminded that I can't fix the electric in my home when it goes out. It's annoying to me to know that I have to wait for somebody to come and fix it for me. Why can't I do that myself? Well, if I'm being honest, it's because I just didn't choose to learn. I could have, but I didn't. And so I think there is something in us that doesn't want to be reminded of our own shortcomings. And a true skilled tradesperson reminds us of that. It's the thing that gets us, you get stuck in traffic. Your gut is to blame the construction workers who are doing the work that provides the very road or the bridge that you need to cross. And so we don't have a natural affinity to appreciate hard work in the same way that we don't have a natural affinity to work hard and master a skill. We don't come into the world fully formed with the kind of work ethic that you guys celebrate here. That has to be taught. And that's why I wanted to come here, because you guys are teaching it. You're not just teaching it. It's not just a lecture or a sermon. You're actually doing it. You have over 100, how many stations are there? Hard to
Over
say.
100 workstations.
No, I want specific numbers, Nick. You're the host of this show. Give me a number.
126.5.
126.5 workstations. I can't wait to see what's going on at that .5. That's a work in progress. You literally have well over 100 workstations. And the reason this is so important, Miles, and I know I'm probably just preaching to the choir here, it's important for the same reason it was tragic when we took shop class out of high school. I mean, can I get an amen? When we took shop class out of high school, we not only saved a bunch of money, right, which is why we were told we need to save money, so let's get rid of wood shop, let's get rid of metal shop, let's get rid of auto shop, let's do all that. What we really did was we removed all proof of the whole category of vocations from kids who were just beginning to try and take an inventory of what was possible and just starting to ask themselves, what do I want to do? What makes sense to my brain? What's my toolbox, right? We took all those options away. And look, I can't prove it, but I feel strongly that I could draw a line from the removal of shop class to the extraordinary amount of student debt we have on the books, to the extraordinary skills gap our country is experiencing, to the unprecedented numbers of healthy men and women who are affirmatively sitting out of the workforce. I think I could draw a line there. Your 126.5 workstations are shop class on steroids. It's you walking the walk. And look, I don't want to overstate it, and again, I'm not a preacher and you're not the choir and it's not Sunday, but the people you described behind me, they're not just students. They're evangelists. They're apostles. They're disciples of work. You're in a bubble. We're all in our own bubble. But you guys live this every day. You see it every day. I'm telling you, when you go out into the world and when you share your attitude, your work ethic, your humility, your desire to do a thing and see it through, you're going to be running into people who think you're speaking another language. And that's their problem. You know, be out in the world. Take the gospel of work and spread it. If not you guys, who? Thanks, Miles, a little while.
Well, I'd like to transition into our last student question. So if we could play that last video.
Hi, my name is Nate Case, and I work at the W. Walton Jones Dairy at College of the Ozarks. Micro, my question for you is, what is the biggest threat to rural America, and how can hardworking people influence that threat?
Hi, Nate. He's the first guy I met today. Right there in the dairy. I remember you. Yeah, so rural America, it's a trick question in a way, whether you meant it or not, because it's so tempting to talk to you from a point of view of, like, I do a lot of work with future farmers of America, historically, and I think when I listen to them, quick sidebar, I spoke at their national convention back in 2008, and backstage, the most extraordinary thing happened. There were like 32,000 kids in this giant stadium, and one of the organizers came over and gave me like a list of talking points, just some basic things. And at the top, it literally said, "We are now officially known as the FFA. We no longer refer to ourselves externally as the Future Farmers of America." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Well, our organization exists primarily to recruit the next generation of farmers into the fold. And the word farmer, according to all the research that they had conducted over the years, had become a pejorative. It had become an obstacle to recruitment. Because in many, many people's minds, even many people who live in the middle, the word was synonymous with all of the stigmas and stereotypes that come with it. It was basically Buck Owens and Roy Clark. It was hee-haw. You say farmer, there's the guy clear in the South for you, and still doing it with the tools of 50, 60 years ago. In other words, there was no real understanding of the miracle of modern agriculture. There's no real understanding on the coast, it seems, of tractors and combines that can be operated by GPS without a driver, right? Or GMOs. There's no understanding of what free range really means. There's no real understanding of what organic really means. We're as disconnected from our food and where it comes from as we are from the definition of a good job. Those things kind of go hand in glove. So, but so what, right? Because what do we in the middle not quite understand about the reality of life in the cities, right? We're looking at them with the same level of confusion and skepticism as they're looking in this direction. And so it kind of, for me anyway, goes back to that earlier question. We're not going to have a national divorce. Nobody wants another civil war. Nobody wants to really arbitrage the cities from the middle. Can't do that. So the only way to educate the coasts is to tell them the truth about what's going on in the middle, and vice versa. You know, that's it. I wish I had a better answer than to say, keep doing what you're doing. You were great this morning. You know, we showed up out of nowhere. There were 50 people standing around watching us, pointing cameras at us, and we're talking about cows. That doesn't happen at any other college. Trust me, I've been to a lot of them. Do what you're doing. Just do more of it. Do it bigger, make more videos, and use social. push it all out there. You've got a remarkable and singular story to tell, but don't fall into the trap of thinking that you're telling it on behalf of one America. It's not just about the red states, it's not about the flyover, it's about all of it. Our workforce is our workforce, and right now it's in terrible trouble. And our best hope of righting it and balancing it is for Nate to keep being Nate. And you guys keep doing what you're doing.
Since I was criticized on my start of this talk show,
Evaluated,
I
not
was
criticized.
evaluated on my hosting ability as a talk show impersonator, apparently. How would you suggest I close this out?
Do you dance?
No, I don't.
Really? Oh, come on, man. This has never happened in the history of anything here, I'm sure.
I think you were put up to this.
You asked, if I sang a work song and you could dance, you could do an interpretive dance, and I could sing, I don't know. What do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. You can't beat it up, you call me 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the dumpling store. Some people say a man is made out of mud. A poor man's made out of muscle and blood. You've got muscle and blood and skin and bone. I'm not a singer. And I back that strong, you lonely six. All right, I'm not going to sing the whole song because he's done dancing, but you guys have been unbelievable. Thank you for having me here. What a weird, fun night. What a great group of people. Keep doing what you're doing. Work smart and hard. Nick, best host ever. Thank you, guys. Terrific.
Thank you so much.
Anytime. Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
We appreciate you addressing this topic that is so important to us around here.
Well, thanks.
We appreciate it so much.
I'm going to put this back in the gift shop. All right, I'm not really going to take it, but I am going to take this
One
one.
partially used cap to facility.
No, we can auction that off.
We could, yeah.
We're getting literally dozens of dollars for that. $24.95 at least. Should I leave? I don't know where to go.
Actually, we have some things we would like to present to you. And so I'm going to ask
No.
the team of folks to come up here.
Real?
No, let's step out here so we get some pictures. So, Mike, we know that you spent time this afternoon in the fruitcake and jelly kitchen.
I sure did, man.
You did.
Yeah.
You were getting your hands dirty. And what was it? The egg whites. You have
The egg whites, I believe, are what you call the albumin.
the albumin.
Yes.
I learned a new term. Is that the albumin? Okay, so we would like to present you with signature fruitcake.
I thought it was going to be a tin full of egg whites. Thank you.
I want you to know too that Hannah actually made this basket that we're going to give to you.
Really?
With a lot of products from our student products.
Thank you very much. You want to set it down? Is it getting heavy? I mean, it's not nearly as heavy as it was with this fruitcake in there, I can tell you that. Wow. Thank you. Sincerely. It's amazing.
And Jessica and Kyla have some gifts that they want to present to you. Our stained glass and candle factory produced a stained glass work for you.
That is amazing.
Mike Rowe Works Foundation.
This is it, guys. This is so great. If I could, just one more quick shameless plug. I can't believe it, I didn't bring it up, but you guys are already here, you guys are on your path, but we are, my foundation is awarding $1 million next month in our next round of work ethic scholarships. So spread the word. If you know somebody out there in the world who wants to learn a skill, master a trade, the money's burning a hole in my pocket. Now, this reminded me of that. Thank you very, very much.
We have a sweatshirt for you.
Thank you.
That is signature C of O.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Extra large.
Really? I'm a European husky, but this will definitely work. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll wear it on the way home.
We are so thankful to you for your time here on campus. And we hope you've enjoyed it. We hope you come back soon.
Thank you for being here. Thank you